Well, hi everyone, welcome along. It is going to be just a bit of a short video, I thought. I'm just out on the bike. It is Saturday afternoon. This weekend the weather is, as you can see, a bit dull. I can see in my mirrors way back that I've got an emergency vehicle with blue flashing lights, so I'm just going to keep an eye on how much they progress. I'm thinking they're about half a mile away at the minute. I'm just going to let this ambulance here go around and overtake me as I move off to the left. There we go. And as I say, it has sort of become dry. It's about 7 degrees outside and I've got all the cosy heated stuff on. Now, I was going to talk a little bit about the heated gear, because we had a bit of an issue with the Gerbing heated jacket, and what it was doing was when I did the last video and I was riding along and I said my hands are starting to get a bit cool, and actually it was just my right hand that was cold and the left hand was lovely and warm, and I couldn't work it out. I thought maybe I hadn't got the lead plugged in correctly, and so I checked the gloves on the separate lead and they were working fine, because initially I thought perhaps the gloves had gone, and it turns out that it was the jacket itself. So I kind of contacted Gerbing and said, you know, it's this. They said it sounds like the lead in the jacket, the arm of the jacket. So they wanted me to find the receipt and send it in and all the rest of it so they could repair it. Now, of course, I don't know about you, but I can never find receipts of things that I bought. I bought this probably, I think it was about 18 months ago, or maybe 20 months ago, something like that, in the cold spell. And I just can't remember when it was, can't remember where I would have put the receipt. So anyway, I thought, well, let me have a look at it. So I had a look at it, and what they'd done in manufacturing the jacket is they'd sort of cramped the two sides of a lead together so that they could kind of loop one end through at the end of the arm and back inside, and then cramp them together. And what had happened was that where they'd cramped it, they hadn't cramped it hard enough. You know what those cramp joint things are like anyway, they're always a bit sort of unreliable, aren't they? And it had come away, so there was a clean break in, well, let's say clean break, there was a break in the wire. Anyway, so I decided to just lengthen them a little bit and solder them. I only did it on that side, so of course the left hand side could be at some point due to have the same issue. So if you've got Gerbing and one of your gloves appears to have stopped working when you're combining it with the jacket, don't know how many people who actually watch my videos will have Gerbing or have both the jacket and the gloves and will have that problem. But anybody who is watching, if you have, it's quite possibly because the lead inside the arm has broken away and needs to be put back together. So I soldered it, put some heat shrink on it, and all is well today. So my hands are nice and warm. So that was one thing. I was going to talk a little bit as well about a more local story, news story that was featured on Calendar, and I've seen it on social media in the last week. Was about a guy who had left Squires and was heading back in the Leeds direction, and was knocked off his bike by somebody leaving a junction, who then did a hit and run and didn't bother stopping to see if he was alright, which is absolutely dreadful stuff. I mean, you know, he could have been dying or anything, and luckily I think his mate was with him behind him riding and saw what happened, I think, or shortly found him. I'm not quite sure of the details, but anyway, they did a feature of it in a few different places, and one of those was Calendar, which is the ITV news evening news bulletins, and featured that from Squires. So hopefully a bit of positive coverage through the media may bring to people's attention Now, I'm guessing if this guy had hit and run, the chances of the reason for him doing that are because either he didn't have a license or because he didn't have insurance, or both of those things. There must have been some reason why he would have done that. So, you know, how many people do you know who are currently driving around without licenses? You know, they've gone and bought a car and perhaps they go to Squires, perhaps, you know, they've got a small silver car and then they don't have a license. Maybe if you know people who are in that situation, maybe, you know, obviously I'm not proposing you kind of get into trouble here, but if you know people in that situation and you casually can check out their cars, see if their rear bumper is hanging off. I think they said it was like a Golf or a Skoda, but I mean, if the lad was on the floor trying to work out what sort of vehicle was leaving, then under all of that pressure it's hard to say what model it was. So small silver car that possibly sometimes goes to Squires because perhaps that's where they were intending to go. And if somebody that you know is driving around without a license, obviously that's breaking the law anyway, so it wouldn't harm to just sort of have a bit of a nosy and see what the condition of their car is. So yes, a hit and run, bad news, and hopefully eventually they will get found. It would be, wouldn't it be a nightmare situation if that guy who was in that car didn't have a license for a car but did have a license for a motorbike and was a regular visitor to Squires? I'm guessing he's either a regular visitor to Squires or must live fairly local to Squires Biker Cafe, because why would anybody be driving along that road? It's sort of kind of takes you to Squires and it takes you to the centre of Sherburn and some of the villages around that area. It's almost like, you know, there must be a reason why they were there, and the only reason, as I say, I can think they didn't stop is because they didn't have a license and they didn't have insurance. Crazy, crazy, crazy world. So yeah, I'm out on the bike again. I just thought I'd do a little sort of late afternoon, early evening tootle about. In fact, I'm probably going to call into Squires just as the evening draws on. Maybe get a cup of tea, get a little pasty or something just to keep me going, and then possibly call into Starbucks on the way back just to get a coffee. Now, I also stuck a little map up there which was really just for my own benefit, but I thought if it was of any use to anybody else, they could use it, they could share it, they could do what they want with it, and I'll be updating that throughout the year. That's just my idea really stemmed from, I've been to lots of different places and on the bike, and you know, you sort of like, you know, you're thinking, well, I want to go out tomorrow, this weekend, whatever, but I just don't know where I want to go this time round. And I thought if I could just create a rough sort of little map with all of the places I already know or people have mentioned going to try new places, then it would give me a bit of something to work from rather than trying to just remember about different places, because otherwise you end up going, it's quite you end up repeating the same things and going to the same places, don't you, without really giving much thought to where else you could go. So I created that little map that I showed in a previous video, and I've updated it since. I now just need to work out, so if you've got any ideas of where would be the best place to just sort of host that as a decent quality JPEG file or something like that, where people could download it and use it if they wanted to. It's not like a public thing, it's not really, you know, I've not cross-checked and double-checked and made it to scale or anything like that. As I say, it is a rough little map just mainly for my benefit, but quite a few people said they'd like a copy of it. So I just wondered if you know, I know some of the people watching this have got lots of technical skills, if you know how I could just host that. I'm not thinking of doing shares on Google Drive or Dropbox or that kind of thing. I mean, it might be what I end up having to do, but you can't put, it's a shame you just cannot put a decent quality image up on Facebook. I haven't really noticed that before, but it is so noticeable if you're doing something with like graphic content, like, you know, labeling and stuff, because all of the text is kind of aliasing around it and it's a bit blurry. It's not as good as I thought it might be, just sticking it up on Facebook. So any ideas, any thoughts on how I could share that file as a decent quality image? I'm just watching this chap here to the right, see what he's doing. Please let me know. Quite busy on the roads today. Might be because it's a slightly milder temperature. I say it's slightly milder, it's sort of, I think it was 8 or 9 degrees earlier. Now it has come down now to, oh, it's 8 degrees here actually. So up in the hills it was 7, back down here it's 8 again. So it is a fairly mild day actually, but looking ahead to next weekend, it's looking like it's going to be between 0 and 4 degrees. So that's the kind of snow temperatures. And I know Ed Ricks, who is on my Facebook page, don't know whether he watches my videos or not, on the Multistrada. He's on a Multistrada 1262 over in, I don't know if he's in the south part of Canada or the north part of the States actually, but he's in a place where they've got lots and lots of snow and it gets very cold. So yeah, he was saying you don't have any snow, but I bet it's not long now before we start to see some snow coming down from the skies, which for bikers, I suppose, apart from, you know, pleasure bikers a bit like me, because I just tend to go in the car if I need to get anywhere, and if it's snowing that badly I'll just work from home, so I'm not too bad. But for those of you who are commuter bikers and have to get to a place of work when it snows, that is pretty hard times, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to stop and get some fuel very shortly because the bike needs it, and I will then head off towards Squires, which is about 15 minutes away from here. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please, if you are out there, enjoy yourselves. Obviously, if you ride bikes, ride safe, but whatever you do, take care of yourselves and take it easy. Bye bye for now.